Can you marry my son?
Would you like some more coffee, hon?
Just a little bit, thank you.
Marry my son. The old woman's words hung in the air like smoke. Paula laughed, a waitress used to jokes, tips, and loneliness. She had no idea the frail woman in booth 7 had just changed her life forever. And the man watching from the shadows? He never laughed. He never did. Before we dive into this story, if you're here for tales of unexpected love, hidden identities, and second chances that'll grip your heart, hit that like button. Drop a comment below telling me what you would do if a stranger asked you to marry their son, and subscribe so you never miss a story that'll make you feel everything. Now, let's begin. Paula wiped down table 7 for the third time that hour. The vinyl cracked beneath her cloth, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like tired bees. She was used to it. The diner, the grease-stained apron, the way customers looked through her instead of at her. At 28, she'd grown comfortable being invisible. "Refill, sweetheart?" she asked, smiling at the old woman who'd been nursing the same cup of tea for 40 minutes. The woman looked up. Her eyes were sharp, gray as winter clouds, framed by deep wrinkles that spoke of a life hard-lived. "Sit," she said softly. Paula blinked. "I'm working, ma'am." "Sit." There was something in that voice, not cruelty, command. Paula glanced at her manager, who was scrolling through his phone, then slid into the booth. The old woman studied her, really studied her. Paula felt stripped bare under that gaze, every insecurity illuminated. Her round cheeks, the way her uniform stretched tight across her hips, the exhaustion permanently etched beneath her eyes. "You're kind," the woman finally said. "I've watched you. You smile even when they don't tip. You remember orders. You apologize when it's not your fault." Paula shifted uncomfortably. "Just doing my job." "No." The woman's hand, bony, cold, covered hers. "You're surviving. There's a difference." She paused. "Marry my son." The laugh burst out before Paula could stop it. "Excuse me? My son, he needs someone real, someone who won't crumble." The old woman's grip tightened. "Marry him." Paula gently pulled her hand back, still smiling. "Ma'am, I appreciate the offer, but I don't even know your son, and honestly, I'm not exactly marriage material." She gestured at herself, at the diner, at her life. The old woman didn't smile back. "You'll meet him soon." "Sure," Paula said, humoring her. She'd had stranger conversations. Last week, a man tried to pay in Monopoly money. "If your son walks in here, I'll marry him, Scout's honor." She stood, still grinning, and moved to the next table. Behind her, the old woman pulled out her phone. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked everything, Do-Yun stood at the window. His reflection stared back. Dark eyes, sharp jaw, the kind of face people didn't forget. Or forgive. His phone buzzed. "Found her, the waitress. She said yes." Do-Yun's expression didn't change. He'd learned long ago that emotions were weapons, and he refused to be unarmed. "Send the car," he said simply. His mother had been searching for 3 years. Every woman she'd introduced him to had been the same. Polished, ambitious, cold. They wanted his name, his power, his money. None of them had laughed when she made the offer. He looked at the photo his mother sent. A woman with warm brown skin, curves that defied the diner uniform, eyes that held something he didn't see often in his world. Softness. "Let's see if she runs," he murmured. What would you do if a stranger's mother asked you to marry their child? Drop your answer below. The black car arrived at 11 p.m. just as Paula's shift ended. She didn't notice it at first. Too busy counting her tips. $47 for a 10-hour shift. too tired to care about the sleek vehicle idling near the diner's entrance. Then the back door opened. Do-yeon stepped out and the world seemed to tilt. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her rent. His face was beautiful in a dangerous way. Sharp lines, cold eyes, the kind of man who made decisions that ruined lives before breakfast. Paula froze on the sidewalk. Paula Thompson? His voice was smooth, accented, lethal. Who's asking? She clutched her purse tighter, every instinct screaming danger. My mother made you an offer today. He stepped closer. The streetlight caught his face and she saw it, the resemblance. Same sharp eyes as the old woman. Same unreadable expression. You accepted. Her laugh was nervous now. That was a joke. She seemed sweet, but I wasn't serious. She was. The air between them crackled. Paula's heart hammered against her ribs. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Broad shoulders, hands that looked like they could break bones without effort. An aura of controlled violence. Look, sir, I don't know what this is, but I'm not interested in $1 million. Paula's words died in her throat. Marry me. Stay married for 1 year. At the end, you walk away with $1 million, no strings attached. Do-yeon's gaze never wavered. My mother is dying. She has 6 months. Her last wish is to see me married to someone. Good. Good, Paula whispered. Someone who isn't part of my world. His jaw tightened. Someone clean. Paula should have run. Everything about this screamed trap. The money, the stranger, the impossible offer. But her mind betrayed her, calculating $1 million. No more double shifts. No more choosing between electricity and groceries. No more invisible. What's the catch? She asked quietly. Do-yeon smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You'll have to pretend to love me, and you'll have to survive meeting the people who want me dead. Who are you? He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. Someone you should be terrified of. And somehow, that honesty was what made her stay. Paula didn't sleep that night. She sat in her studio apartment, peeling wallpaper, a mattress on the floor, the sound of sirens through thin walls, and stared at the business card Do-yeon had given her. Do-yeon Choy, CEO, Choy Enterprises. A Google search revealed nothing helpful. His company dealt in imports and exports. His photo appeared at charity galas, always alone, always unsmiling. There were rumors, whispers of connections to organized crime, of politicians in his pocket, of people who crossed him and disappeared. This is insane, Paula muttered. But her bank account said otherwise. Overdraft notices, eviction warnings, medical bills from her mother's funeral last year that she'd never be able to pay. $1 million. She could start over, go back to school, leave this city, this life, this version of herself that settled for crumbs. Her phone rang at 3 a.m. You're still awake, Do-yeon said without preamble, thinking about running. How did you? I know everything about you, Paula. Your student loans, your eviction notice. The night shifts you work because the tips are better even though it's more dangerous. His voice softened, just barely. I'm offering you a way out. Why me? The question burst out, raw and desperate. You could marry anyone. Someone prettier, thinner, someone from your world. Because you laughed. The line went quiet for a moment. My mother has spent 3 years parading women in front of me. Every single one of them saw dollar signs. You saw a lonely old woman and played along to make her happy. You didn't want anything. I don't understand. You don't have to. She heard him exhale. The car will pick you up at noon tomorrow. Bring nothing. Everything you need will be provided. And if I say no? Then you say no. I won't force you, Paula, but we both know you're going to say yes. The line went dead. Paula stared at her phone, at her life, at the impossible choice. He was right. She was going to say yes. The Choy estate was a fortress disguised as a home. Paula stood in the marble foyer, overnight bag clutched in trembling hands, while staff moved around her like she was invisible again. The house was all cold elegance, white walls, expensive art, windows that overlooked manicured gardens, and beyond them, the city she'd served for pennies. This way, Miss Thompson. A woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed, led Paula through hallways that seemed to stretch forever. I'm Mrs. Kim, the head housekeeper. Mr. Choy has prepared the East Wing for you. You'll have your own suite until the wedding. Wedding? Paula's voice cracked. 3 days from now. Everything has been arranged. 3 days. Paula's knees nearly buckled. Mrs. Kim stopped at a door, pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom larger than Paula's entire apartment. King bed with silk sheets, a sitting area, floor-to-ceiling windows. Dresses hung in the open closet, all in her size. How did he... Mr. Choy is thorough. Mrs. Kim's expression softened slightly. Dinner is at 7. You'll meet his mother then. Don't be late. Alone, Paula sank onto the bed. The mattress was so soft she thought she might sink through the floor. What am I doing? A knock interrupted her spiral. Do-Yun entered without waiting for permission. He'd changed into slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Paula noticed the tattoos, Korean characters winding up his forearms, disappearing beneath fabric. Settling in? He asked. I feel like I'm in a museum or a prison. Both, depending on the day. He moved to the window, hands in pockets. We need to establish rules. Rules? This is a business arrangement. We maintain separate rooms. You attend family dinners and public events. You smile, you play the loving wife, and you don't ask questions about my work. And what do you do exactly? His smile was razor sharp. I told you not to ask questions. Paula stood, anger flaring past her fear. You can't expect me to marry you in 3 days without knowing anything. I expect exactly that. He crossed the room until they were inches apart. Here's what you need to know. People will test you. They'll try to find your weak spots, exploit them. You do not engage. You do not trust anyone except me and my mother. You stay close, you stay quiet, and you stay alive. Understand? And if I can't do that, then you won't last long enough to collect your money. The words hung between them like a death sentence. Why does it feel like I just sold my soul? Paula whispered. Do-Yun's expression flickered, something almost like regret. Because you did. Welcome to the family, Paula. Here's a question for you. Would you marry a stranger for money if it meant escaping poverty, even if it put your life at risk? Let me know in the comments. Dinner was a quiet battlefield. Paula sat across from Do-Yun's mother, Mrs. Choy, she'd learned, in a dining room that could seat 30. The old woman from the diner looked different here. Regal, despite the IV pole beside her chair, despite the hollowness in her cheeks. You came, Mrs. Choy said, smiling. I keep my promises. Paula's voice was steadier than she felt. Even the joking ones? Apparently, Mrs. Choy laughed, a sound like wind chimes. I like you, child. You don't pretend. Do-Yun sat at the head of the table, silent, watching them both with those unreadable eyes. You must think I'm crazy, Mrs. Choy continued, asking a stranger to marry my son. A little, Paula admitted. I'm dying. Stage 4 cancer. 6 months, maybe less. She said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. Do-Yun has lived in darkness his whole life. His father built an empire on blood. When he died, Do-Yun inherited everything, the business, the enemies, the weight of choices that stain your soul. Paula glanced at Do-Yun. His jaw was tight, a muscle twitching. I wanted him to have something pure before I go. Someone who looks at him and doesn't see a monster. Mrs. Choy reached across the table, taking Paula's hand. Someone who can remind him he's still human. I'm not I'm not some saint, Mrs. Choy. I've made mistakes. You work 3 jobs to survive. You send money to your grandmother in Georgia even though you're drowning in debt. You apologize to rude customers because you've been on the other side and remember how it feels. The old woman's grip tightened. You're exactly what he needs. Paula felt tears prick her eyes. He doesn't want saving. No, Mrs. Choi agreed. But maybe you do. Later, Paula found Do-yun on the terrace, smoking a cigarette. The city glittered below like broken glass. Your mother told me about your father, Paula said quietly. Did she tell you what he did? The people he hurt? Do-yun didn't look at her. I'm not different, Paula. I've killed. I've ordered deaths. I've done things that would make you run screaming. Then why do this? Why get married if you're already... Why, damned? Finally, he turned. In the moonlight, he looked younger, almost vulnerable. Because she asked, and I've never been able to deny her anything. He stubbed out the cigarette. You're not saving me. You're giving a dying woman peace. Remember that. But when he walked away, Paula saw what he didn't want her to see. The photo on his phone's lock screen. A little boy with a bright smile holding a woman's hand. Before the empire. Before the blood. Before the monster. The wedding was small, just Mrs. Choi, Mrs. Kim, and a handful of staff who signed NDAs. Paula wore a simple white dress. Do-yun wore black. The officiant spoke words that felt like chains and freedom all at once. You may kiss the bride. Do-yun hesitated. Then gently, so gently Paula nearly gasped, he cupped her face and pressed his lips to hers. It was brief, chaste, but something sparked, something neither of them expected. Wife, he murmured against her mouth. Husband, she whispered back. The first week was strange. They orbited each other like distant planets, polite, careful, separate. But cracks began to form. Paula found Do-yun in the kitchen at 2 a.m., making ramyun. Can't sleep, she asked. He shrugged. Old habit. My mother used to make this when I had nightmares as a kid. Can I try? They sat at the island eating spicy noodles in comfortable silence. Do-yun's guard dropped just slightly. What were you studying? He asked. Before you dropped out. Education. I wanted to teach. Paula smiled sadly. Stupid dream. Why stupid? Because dreams don't pay rent. They do if someone believes in them. He set down his chopsticks. Finish your degree, I'll pay for it. Paula's throat tightened. That's not part of the deal. Consider it a bonus. Another night, Paula found Mrs. Choi crying in her room. The pain? Paula asked gently. The regret. The old woman looked up. I should have taken Do-yun and run when his father was alive. Given him a different life. Paula sat beside her, taking her frail hand. You gave him you. That's not nothing. You're good for him, child. I see the way he looks at you when you're not watching. He doesn't. He does. Mrs. Choi smiled through tears. Like he's remembering how to feel. Paula stayed with her until she slept, humming lullabies her own mother once sang. When she left the room, Do-yun was waiting in the hallway. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For being here. For us caring. Something shifted between them. The walls they'd built began to crumble, brick by careful brick. Do-yun? Paula's voice was barely a whisper. What happens when the year's over? He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw fear in his eyes. I don't know, he admitted, and that terrified them both. It started with a name, Kang Min-ho. Paula overheard it during a late-night phone call. Do-yun's voice was different, cold, lethal, the voice of the man she'd been warned about. I don't care about his excuses. If he talks, eliminate the problem. She froze in the hallway, blood turning to ice. Paula. She turned. Do-Yun stood at his office door, phone still in hand, expression unreadable. How much did you hear? Enough. Her voice shook. Who's Kang Min-ho? Someone who betrayed me. And you're going to kill him? Silence. Oh my God. Paula backed away. You actually... I told you who I was. Do-Yun's voice was flat. I told you not to ask questions. I'm not some prop in your life. I'm your wife. You're an employee. The words cracked like a whip. You're here for my mother, for the money. Don't pretend this is real. Paula felt something inside her shatter. You're right. This isn't real. How could I forget? She laughed bitterly. I actually started to believe, God, I'm so stupid. Paula? No. Tears streamed down her face. You want a wife who smiles and doesn't ask questions? Fine. But don't expect me to pretend you're anything other than what you are, a monster. She saw the flinch, the way her words hit him like bullets. Get out, Do-Yun said quietly. Gladly. Paula ran to her room, locked the door, and sobbed into her pillow. She'd been a fool, a naive, desperate fool who'd let herself hope. Outside her door, Do-Yun stood with his fist against the wood. I'm sorry, he whispered to the silence. But she didn't hear him. The next morning, Paula found a note slipped under her door. Kang Min-ho is alive. I sent him away with money to start over. I'm trying, Paula. I'm trying to be better, but I don't know if I can be what you need. She crumpled the note, heart breaking all over again. Because she realized the truth. She'd fallen in love with a man who didn't believe he deserved to be loved back. Mrs. Choy collapsed 3 days later. Paula found her in the garden, unconscious among the roses. The ambulance came, the hospital room. The machines that beeped and hissed like mechanical breath. Do-Yun sat beside his mother's bed holding her hand, face carved from stone. Paula stood in the doorway, unsure if she was welcome. She's asking for you, Do-Yun said without looking up. Paula approached carefully. Mrs. Choi's eyes fluttered open, focusing on her with effort. My sweet girl, the old woman whispered. Don't give up on him. Mrs. Choy, please save your strength. Promise me. Her grip was surprisingly strong. He pushes away everyone he loves because he thinks he'll destroy them. Prove him wrong. I don't know if I can. You already have. Mrs. Choy smiled. He changed. The moment you laughed gave him hope. Paula looked at Do-Yun. He was staring at his mother, tears streaming silently down his face. She'd never seen him cry. Mrs. Choi's grip loosened. The machines screamed. Nurses rushed in. I love you, Iyama, Do-Yun choked out. Love her too, Mrs. Choy whispered. Let yourself be happy. Then she was gone. The funeral was quiet. Paula stood beside Do-Yun as they lowered the casket. He didn't cry again, just stood rigid, a man carved from ice. Afterward, in the empty house, Do-Yun finally broke. Paula found him in his mother's room, surrounded by her things, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She didn't think. She just went to him, wrapped her arms around him, and held on. I'm sorry. He gasped against her shoulder. I'm sorry for what I said, for what I am, for everything. I know. You should leave. Take the money. Run before I ruin you too. Paula pulled back, forcing him to look at her. What if I don't want to run? Paula, what if I want to stay? Not for the money, not for your mother, for you. Hope and fear warred in his eyes. I'm dangerous. I know. I'm broken. I know. I don't deserve you. Paula cupped his face, thumbs brushing away tears. Maybe not. But I'm choosing you anyway. Why? Because underneath the monster, there's a man who makes ramyun at 2 a.m., who kept a man alive because I asked, who cries for his mother, who's trying so hard to be better, She smiled through her own tears. That's the man I fell in love with. Do-yun stared at her like she was a miracle he didn't believe in. Then he kissed her. Desperate, aching, real. Don't leave me, he whispered against her lips. Never. What would you do? Stay with someone dangerous but changing, or leave for your own safety? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 6 months later. Paula stood in her new classroom, watching students file in for the first day. She'd finished her degree. Do-yun had kept his promise. Her phone buzzed. Proud of you, wife. She smiled. Their marriage had evolved into something neither expected. They still fought, about his work, about danger, about the darkness that sometimes consumed him. But they fought together now. Do-yun was changing, slowly. He'd started legitimate businesses, distancing himself from his father's empire. It would take years, maybe decades, but he was trying was her, for them, for the man his mother believed he could be. That evening, Paula came home to find the penthouse filled with roses. Do-yun stood in the center, wearing a soft smile that still felt like a gift. What's all this? She asked. A year ago today, my mother asked you to marry her son in a diner. You laughed and said yes as a joke. He walked toward her, taking her hands. I want to ask you properly now. He knelt. Paula's breath caught. Paula Thompson, no, Paula Choy. You've changed my life in ways I didn't think possible. You've made me want to be better, to believe I can be better. You've given me hope. His voice broke. Will you stay married to me? Not for money, not for a dying woman's wish, but because you love me and I love you more than I thought I could love anything? Tears streamed down Paula's face. You're really asking? I'm begging. She pulled him to his feet, kissing him hard. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Do-yun laughed, a sound of pure joy, and spun. Her around. I love you, he said against her hair. I love you too, even though you're still a little bit terrifying. Only a little? I'm being generous. They stood in the roses in the life they'd built from a joke and a desperate choice. And Paula realized something. Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst decisions. Sometimes broken people find each other and make something beautiful. Sometimes a waitress and a monster fall in love, and both become more human in the process. Ready for dinner? Do-yun asked, pulling her toward the kitchen. Only if you're making ramyeon. Always. And in the window's reflection, Paula swore she saw Mrs. Choy smiling. So tell me, do you believe people can truly change for love? Have you ever taken a risk on someone everyone told you to avoid? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more emotional tales that'll make you believe in second chances. Until next time, remember that sometimes the best love finds us when we're not even looking for it.